to the Creative Constitution podcast. I'm once again joined by Rebecca Ann Bentley, who's an amazing actress, director, and everything in between. And today's topic is working with actors on set as a director and as a writer. Rebecca, hello.
Hello again.
Hello again. It's been a while.
It's been too long.
So tell us a little bit about you for someone that's never heard your name before and doesn't know anything about you.
Sure. So I'm Rebecca Ann Bentley, and I am an actress turned filmmaker. And I really focus on making films that bring light to, overlooked topics and bringing more representation both on and off screen. So that's something that's like super important to me. I've had some short films that are placed in some contests and, won some awards. And I'm in post-production of my feature film, Kill Me, Heal Me, about violence against men, which is something I'm super passionate about. And then I also have my own production company, which follows kind of my mission in life.
Amazing.
To make films that, and bring more opportunities to, queer, disabled people.
Awesome. One of the things that you're really passionate about is making sets more accessible as well. Talk to me a little bit about that. What does that mean?
Sure. So essentially, I kind of just want to make everyone feel comfortable. Like people, even though do casting calls for like, female roles and things like that, it's kind of also important to me that it's like encouraging, non-binary people to step forward and writing kind of more roles like that. And I guess, the first thing that we did in like my latest short film casting was ask for people's pronouns and not just assume and be like, what are you comfortable, being called? What's your pronouns? Like, do you have any disabilities, anything we need to know to make, being on set easier for you? Things like that alongside like all the dietary. So, and I guess I kind of hope in planning and, one day in the future to open my own like studio, run it, and that's like going to be fully accessible for everybody.
Amazing.
Because I feel like, there's so many studios and, things like that have like steps and other things and, so many events that people cannot attend, like people in wheelchairs cannot attend because it's like accessible. But then there's stairs to get to the main thing, and it's quite disappointing. Yeah, so I guess...
Well, you can dream big and change the world in your own way. And I think that's a great mission. I think that's really, really good. And then is that something that drives you every day? Like, is that what gets you up in the morning and you're like, you know what, I really want to do this. This is my mission in life. Like, what would you kind of define that?
Yeah, so I definitely think so. And I think it's, my way of, I guess, pushing myself forward in the industry when I'm kind of feeling like down or, self-doubting. It's like, okay, I have the chance to kind of do something about this. And when I see something negative, I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to be able to make that change. Or as someone I worked with before, did a consultation manager who's like, you're already making a difference. You've just got to get into that, mindset that you are making a difference, which is really good. And so I guess that kind of gets me out of bed.
Yeah.
As well as coffee. Coffee helps.
That is a good one. I think whenever I kind of have those feelings too, I mean, we all tackle with self-doubt and that little voice in our head a little bit sometimes. And I think you have to understand that even like the smallest water droplet being dropped into the sea will still make a ripple. And I think when you think about it like that, like every little step is actually a good thing. If it's in the positive direction, obviously. But yeah, I think that helps me kind of be more content with kind of what I'm doing and be like, okay, actually I am doing a good thing and it's going to serve people in XYZ ways. And that's a good thing.
I think, what's really helped me last year, I started it, is writing like an accomplish list. So I've got like everything that, even if it's something small, that people would be like, what the hell? That shouldn't be in there. is kind of, it helps me because like then when you're having doubts, you can look back and be like, all right, what have I achieved already this year?
Yeah.
And you go, all right, great, I've done this. You know, I've had a really good consultation, for example. Like I put things like that and then include like keywords that they've said, like, you know, this will make a difference, you know, blah, 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 things like that. And I think that that also really helps and motivates me on those days that I just feel like, what am I doing?
That's great. Do you bring that sort of attitude to set as well? Like, so talk to me about when you were on your feature film set, all the pre-planning is done, everyone is on the set. What do you kind of prioritize to make everyone feel good at that moment in time?
It's a great question. I think, I guess, I kind of just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable, everybody's fed, everybody is, you know, feeling like they know what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
especially. And yeah, I guess I just want to make sure that it's a really friendly and like even if we're tackling really serious things that we can all still have a little laugh and like at the
Yeah.
break and if my actors need like a break or need more time to work on something, I was like I find I'm really big on making sure that I guess the best way to sum it is everybody's okay. Everybody has a space if they need it. They can, you know, come to me and talk to me. Like there's absolutely nothing I hate more than if somebody feels like they cannot say to me, I just can't do this right now and things like that. And especially doing different things like stunts and stuff and really emotional scenes, you know, just I guess what's really big for me is just checking that the actors are okay
Yeah.
and that they're fine. I mean, like, you know, if you want more time, you know, you can take it even if first AD or DOP is like, we don't have time. It's like, no.
Yeah.
This is, especially for my feature film, it was like such an intense thing. Luckily my actors were great and didn't need a super amount of time, which was surprising, but they're so good. Um, I guess, yeah, so I guess, I don't know how to summarize. I don't know if I've
No, well, I
summarized.
mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like you have conversations throughout. So, you know, you're just about to do a take and you might say like, "Are you okay? Like, is everything all right?" What does it look like
Yeah.
at the start? How do people even know that they can be comfortable with you? Do you have a pep talk?
Um, I kind of do, but also don't, I guess. If it's like a, you know, not super intense take, you know, I might just be like, everybody ready, you know, and then everybody says yes. But then if it's like something that was really intense, like there's one scene and like the actors talking about something that happened, um, and it was very much like in a very, very emotional
Mm,
emotional scene. And so then obviously before we did the first take, and even when he was getting like the fake, like he has fake bruises on it, and throughout the entire scenes with the psychologist, I was like, if you need more time, don't listen to anybody else. Just come to me, let me know. And then yeah, before the first take, I was as well. I was like, "Are you ready? Are you you know, whatever?" And he was like, "Nope, it was
yeah.
good." I don't think he really spoke. Actually, can't remember. It was a very long time ago, but I think yeah, he was already in kind of like the mode of it. So I think what was more important to me was not just doing it like when everything's set up, ready to go. It was earlier to be like when they're getting ready to be like, hey, just so you know, whatever you need.
Yeah. I think, I mean, talking from personal experience, I think a lot of actors, including myself, I don't want to be on set and be kind of the drama queen, you know? And I think a lot of actors probably think that they can't go to their director and express concern. And some directors completely different. But, you know, I've been on sets before where you're doing super intense like horror scenes and so you might be like you're spending a lot of energy because the scene requires that and when the topics are really emotional and heavy, which is a lot of what you do as well, it's kind of your specialty.
Yeah.
You know, how do you personally deal with an actor that might not actually want to say anything because they don't want to seem like that person that, you know, needs 5 minutes or you know, like how do you balance that?
I mean, I think I've been pretty lucky that I haven't had it really. I guess, happened to me where they haven't felt comfortable enough. Was one actor on my feature, and it was a very intense scene with the dad, the mum, and the younger version, and just having some issues because it was quite like personal to him, and so it was just like it was quite a few takes. But then he was like just saying, "I'm just gonna need a little bit of time," and it was like totally fine and everything like that. So yeah, so I don't know if I
Maybe
mean
maybe it's just that you're such a friendly, warm person. Maybe people just assume that they can come and talk to you, which is,
yeah,
to be honest,
maybe
probably the case, because if you don't really need to do a pep talk, and usually people have that kind of warmth about themselves. Like, I think some directors, their approach is different. I think they
yeah,
care more about the product, and they'll kind of drive it to death. Like, for example, like, there are famous directors who will do 50 takes, but then there is someone like Clint Eastwood that'll do one take and move on, and
yeah,
sometimes both can get really, really good outcomes. But it's like, what will the actors say after the production is done? And
mm,
personally, I would rather have a good reputation and be like, actually, we did do a great performance, and we got that because we were able to relax, and we were able to enjoy the process and not feel like it's like a race that needs to be won. Like, when
yeah,
when you're on set and everything's happening and you're like, we only have 5 minutes left,
yeah,
that can be a really stressful time. But like, what if you need that really emotional performance from an actor, but you can't get it because everyone is stressing out like headless chickens running around?
yeah,
So I'm sure you would have faced that too. Maybe your AD comes to you and they're like, we only have 10 minutes left. And you look at the script and you're like, oh crap, we have a whole scene left to do and we haven't done like the over the shoulders and whatever. What do you do then? What's your go to?
um. For me, it was, I think it happened a couple of times where, I mean, maybe not a couple of times. I think it was one time that I really remember, like, we were pretty on top of the time thing, for the most part. But then there was, we were behind, like, a whole scene. And so I think we had to reschedule that one scene for a different day because it was, like, already, like, 10 p.m.
Mhm.
And we were supposed to finish, like, basically after 10 p.m. And so even though some of the crew were like, we can keep going, I was like looking at actors and I was like, we can't keep going. Just saw their face, and stuff like that. And then there was another one where we only had like probably about 5 minutes left for one scene. And so I just kind of made the decision that we weren't going to do the close ups of Elizabeth, my character, because I was like, it's more important that we have, which we had, done. Might have been actually like right on the we're supposed to finish time. I was like, it's more important that we have his because I can still cut to like the medium for mine, but it's definitely like for the film more powerful to have that. And guess kind of made that decision um, based off what was happening. Um, yeah, so I guess I just kind of try not to let the stress show.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know if I was very successful in not letting my stress show. Um, might have to ask everybody. But I guess, yeah, I just kind of made decisions on the spot or asked my producers for advice. And we just went from there.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people wouldn't reschedule. Obviously it's very dependent. I mean, there's always 100 factors, right?
Mm,
Everything from like the location to the scheduling. Once again, I mean, if you have to reschedule, that's like sometimes a director's worst nightmare, because that means you're rescheduling like 20 people.
yeah,
And that can add up, and it can be really complicated.
yeah,
But I mean, it's commendable that you care more about kind of how everyone's feeling. And it's not just the actors, too, it's the crew as
yeah,
well. It's important to check in with them. And, especially when you've got the DOP holding on to like a really heavy camera for like 8 hours, or the lighting person that's probably developed a couple blisters by now from
yeah,
touching light bulbs, like everyone matters.
yeah, 100%. I think I was very lucky with those. It was a house scene, and I used Airbnb, and we still had like I think another day or so in that. So, and the other scenes I think were a little bit little bit shorter, so we just added that extra scene.
Mhm.
I don't know what would have done if we didn't have it. It would have been a very stressful next day, for sure. But I think that that also helped, to kind of get everybody to go get some sleep, travel home, um, and do everything. So I got lucky with the location and
Yeah,
still having it.
that's great. All right, let's transition to directing the actors and giving them proper direction for the takes you wanted. What's your usual approach?
I think I'm just trying to remember because it's hard to kind of, I guess, when you ask a question like this, it's like hard to describe it. But I guess I would let them kind of play the first time
Yeah,
and kind of just see what they bring. Because especially if they audition and then it's the scene that they've auditioned with, it's like, all right, cool, I know where this is going. And then sometimes it'd be like, all right, this is what was lacking in the audition. This is what I really want to get across, and things like that. And just talking to them in kind of like more of an acting term, like rather than get angry.
yeah,
It's like, your character is dealing with this, and like they're feeling all this, stuff. So take it, in this direction, or really feel this, or just see what happens. Like ignore what it says. If it says you cry, just ignore it. See what happens. Like I think that's so important that sometimes if the actors just ignore that, sometimes it comes out in a way that's so much better
yeah,
than you could
more
have ever
natural.
imagined. And that happened like a few times and it was like just brilliant. Like there's one really big scene and even on the audition, the actor kind of, he's talking. I can't even reveal what the scene is, but it kind of like I always imagine it being such an angry line, like him just basically yelling it or getting really in the face, and then he took it in the complete opposite direction, where he just said it so softly, and just with so much like love for like the other character, and it was like that is so you can't,
Sometimes
you just
you
can
can't
never
write
imagine
that.
that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. And you wrote the script as well. So how did you feel when they would kind of change maybe the words or the emotions or the way that you envisioned it to be said?
I think I was pretty okay for the most part for, 90% of it. Like obviously there were some things that I could 100% not compromise on, that it was just like so crucial that they had to say the correct kind of line or at least one of the words, and stuff like that. But for the like psychologist scenes, there was, a few times where it was just the actors were like, is it okay if I say this instead? Like, this is what I'm thinking, it might be better. And I was like, 100%. But like, I wasn't thinking of it as it's my script. Don't change it. I kind of put like the directing mindset of, yeah, you could do that. And then there was times where there was just takes where it was a little bit different. And then continuity would come up to me and I was like, it's fine. Like, it's got the same message. So I think I was really, really comfortable about, having the lines change and stuff like that, because it just made it, I wouldn't say better. Like, obviously, I
Yeah.
wrote this and I'm pretty proud of it, but I feel like it gave it something else.
Yeah.
And, the emotion things is, I mean, it's quite a big script. So, like, some of the stuff that's saying, like, the emotions will come out naturally, but I didn't mind, like, people, kind of changing it and taking it in a semi different direction that it was written, and not crying at certain things or just more so seeing it.
Yeah.
So it was, I definitely think like I wasn't that strict on it. Certain things I was, but for the most part, I was like, just, whatever, whatever happens, happens.
I think sometimes you get a much better delivery from the actors if they're able to, sometimes you learn the lines and you're like, oh, that word just doesn't come out right. Like it, or they slip up on that word a lot, and
Yeah.
often when we're writing, because I write my own scripts as well, sometimes we forget how people speak.
Yeah.
So you might write something and actually that's not how it naturally would come out in that specific occasion or whatever scene you're
Yeah.
making. As long as the emotions are there and you hit your beats, I think I'm happy with like a probably a 5% movement.
Yeah.
um
Oh, definitely. I feel like, and especially as well when we were doing the scenes, especially for the psychologist's office, I didn't realize some of the stuff sounded a bit repetitive, as well. So I was like, I'm fine for you to mix it up a little bit. Like it was purposely repetitive to a certain point, but then I was like, oh, maybe it's a bit too much. So
yeah,
you're welcome to change that.
right. So what happens when an actor, they do their performance and the first take isn't exactly what you were hoping for? What how do you tackle the directions on that front?
Yeah, so I just take it in a kind of approach of just saying, hey, well, maybe not hey, but like in a gentle way of just, letting them know that, that was great, or I would never say it was terrible, even if the take was terrible. Like I feel like that's just such a terrible way to get no good take ever again.
Well, yeah,
So
they'll be
yeah,
self-conscious for the rest.
yes. What
All
are you
right, so that was
doing?
pretty terrible. Let's try
Yeah.
that again. How's your
Can
actor
you do
gonna
the complete
feel?
opposite?
Yeah.
Can you be an actor? Can you be good?
Oh my
No.
God.
I'm lucky that I've never had like a terrible actor because review them all first.
Yeah.
I guess I approach it in a way that I think an actor would like to hear it, and in a way that's a bit like concise and clear. And if there's any questions, be like, you get that, or you have anything else, you know, and stuff like that. And if I've never had them, I think maybe once majorly disagree, but it's kind of like that balance of being making sure they understand, because there's nothing worse than being like, I understand, and then
Mm, but they don't
they
really
don't.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
So
tend to focus on kind of the objective? Like, yeah, there's so many ways of directing, right? Personally, I think I find that I can get a really good outcome if I can say, this is where you want to be heading, like emotionally. This is what your character is really feeling at that point. And I'm really hoping that we get to a point where your character is feeling X by the end. There are many, many ways. But is there something that maybe you do it subconsciously now, but it's something that you tend to fall back on? Like if the actor's not understanding and they kind of go, yeah, I understand, but they don't really, like, you kind of get that vibe. How do you kind of like course correct at that point?
I think for me, it switches how I kind of approach it, but for the most part, I guess I use things like um, you're, I guess, feeling this way, like this person is doing, this, and this is kind of like what you're battling with. Like you really, want to, you really want to love her, but you can't. But you also are so, upset at what's happening. That was a terrible example, but I guess I kind of just battle in a way of like,
But that happens a lot. I mean, that
yeah,
that's a very
exactly.
common scene.
Exactly. I'm like, yeah, hey, and everything like that. And it's like, this is, kind of like what I guess the character is going through. But then they also really want this. But there's just like, I think there's like a struggle.
Right.
So I kind of mix it up depending on what it is and the actor too. And I feel like that's so important that
Mm.
you know what kind of the actor needs. Like some of them will be like, I just need exactly, I want to tell me how I should feel, like angry at this person, where I should walk, how I should go. It's like, all right, great. Then there's other people that will be like, I need more depth of like, what am I feeling, as well.
Yeah, that's very true. When you get onto set, obviously, before you get onto set, you've done your rehearsing at that point a couple times, maybe with your actors. At what point do you introduce the blocking and the movement of the actors in the scene?
Yeah, so I think it kind of it depends. Like for my short films, I've kind of done it more on set, as well. And I feel like it's much easier when you have the location. So I think while people are like setting up and stuff, I would take the actors through and be like, this is where it should go, and like run it through, especially like with the DOP and everything like that. So I think I do it more like in the location, because I
Mm.
feel like if you you can read through it and you can run through the lines, you can get it to a point you're comfortable, but there's, and maybe people disagree, but I just don't feel like there's a full enough point of being like, you need to walk to this spot when you're
Yeah.
in some sort of like empty room and it's not the location.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
like
much
that's gonna
harder.
gonna change. And things are gonna change on the day. Like, you may be like, this couch is gonna go here, and then suddenly it's like, nah, it needs to move there because of X, Y, Z. So I feel like I do the blocking mainly before we kind of shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. What's your favorite part about working with actors?
Getting to see them perform and getting emotional watching them and just being like, damn, that was great. I think, yeah, I just love it when it's like, there's just something so magical when you're watching something like even on set and then you're just completely taken away, and then it's just like silence after a take, especially for my feature film. There was a couple of scenes where it's just like everybody's quiet after because we're just like so, oh my God. And I look at my producer and go, wow. And like we're
Yeah.
both like about to cry.
Oh my
So I think
gosh.
I just love working with really talented people and kind of seeing them shine and being able to, I guess, do their thing and be like, wow, I have the privilege. Yeah, I have the privilege of working with you
Mm.
and seeing you. And I know one day you're going to do amazing things. Um, and like, I guess, yes. And just being able to have that kind of connection with them on set. And it's great when you have somebody you can have that little friendly banter with. And then, yeah, so I guess to summarize, I just love seeing those magical moments. Like, those are just like
Yeah.
my favorites.
Oh, that's so good. That's how you know you've got kind of lightning in a bottle sometimes, you know? Um,
Yeah,
yeah, when you're on set and then you know you've like nailed it out of the park, you're like, wow, guys, and then it's high fives all around. Crew's really happy too
yeah,
because they know that now they're part of a project that's probably bigger than what they initially anticipated. So
yeah,
keeping keeping team morale is a really good thing, like keeping it really high. How do you tend to go
yeah.
about that? Like making sure everyone's staying positive, and there are days that are probably when things aren't going right. How do you manage that?
I mean, that's the life of a indie project.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of just make sure that everybody's, and like sometimes it's really hard to avoid, and there's not much you can do to kind of get everybody to be cheerful on a day where things are going wrong
Mm.
and it's very stressful. But you can kind of just try and keep it with the crew. And so I think, yeah, like at lunch times and like breaks, to just kind of be like joking around or, just trying to have normal conversations about things that are not related to
Mm.
it, especially with the actors. And then with the crew, obviously, discussing some things, especially if we're like half setting up while doing it. So I think I just kind of try and give that little break of like, hey, just eat your food.
Yeah.
Don't worry about anything. And, telling jokes, or other people telling jokes, because I only have dad jokes,
Oh my gosh.
stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I think it's all about like little breaks as well.
Yeah.
And even so between it and be like, hey, what you're doing. I think keeping the actors separate from the stress is like so important, and then not in front of them, letting them see, because if you're really stressed, they're going to get stressed.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of just like, even if I'm like, everything's falling apart,
You have
I
to
won't
keep the
let the
smiley
actors see it.
face.
I'll be like, hey guys, go enjoy your lunch. And then I'll go to my producer, oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
But it's, yeah, so I don't know if that quite answers the
Oh, I
question,
think it
but I
does.
think,
I think as a
yeah,
director, you're kind of you have to stay you have to be the one where like it's that meme where you've got that little mouse that's like sitting in a burning building and it's like
yeah,
everything's fine.
yeah,
Because otherwise
exactly.
everyone else falls apart as well.
100%.
All right, so I wanted to do one last takeaway for
Mhm.
working with actors. whatever comes to mind, what is like the one thing that you would say that is a must on set?
Just making sure that they feel comfortable and
Mm.
that they are okay and not pressuring them to cry in 5 seconds. I've been like, hey, cool, we're ready to go, and action, and cry. And it's like, no, I think, yeah, just making sure it's a very safe set as well, especially when you're tackling really heavy things. You want them to be comfortable enough that if something is really like, this is too much, to be like to you, hey, I need to step away, and just giving them, I think just giving them freedom.
Yeah.
Like, let them get the takes that you really want as well, but then give them the freedom to feel like they can play around. Like, it's a reward for them. Even if you don't use it, they feel like they've got their own little input in it as well. So I
Yeah.
think, and learning what they like, how they like to work, because there's nothing worse than being like, do it like this is how you should do it, and then being like, that's not how I work. So I think, yeah, I think that was
Amazing.
3 or 4 things.
No, that's perfect. I think I definitely agree there. The more you give your actors the ability to play, the usually the better the outcomes for your project.
100%. And it might be something that you really end up loving and using.
That's right. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us on this one. I've learned heaps. I loved this one. This was a really good chat. And we hope you listeners have enjoyed this one. And make sure to treat your actors right on set, and you might have a banging movie at the end.
And they might work with you like 3 or 4 times.
Exactly. You just keep them coming back. Thank you so much for listening to the Creative Constitution, and we will catch you in the next one.